So one of the remarks we got from the happening in December was that one of the more useful things that we did was just film me walking through how to use Federated Wiki, not necessarily in this very precise way. This is exactly how you do this, and this is what the video will be called, but just what sort of typical use looks like. And so we're going to do that today. We're going to start out here. We notice that we're starting from my site. We've talked a bit about how where you start from matters. We're going to notice down here that there are currently 2 sites in what we call the neighborhood. You know a little bit about the neighborhood if you've done things you must do. And in this case, if we hover over these, we actually see one is the orientation site and one is the machine site. And the machine site, obviously, because that's where I'm starting from, the orientation site, because there's a reference here to the orientation site on this page. And that's why those things are in my neighborhood. Neighborhoods are composed of some very simple rules, and you'll see that as we move forward. I usually start by going to conversation clubs, and I just look at what is being done. So some people are editing welcome visitors here. I can see that I have this page beyond personal attribution, and that's been forked. Someone has taken that page. Execute a cross-page move. A lot of people are forking that because when they do the cross-page move, it actually forks it to their site. And to me as a teacher, that is a good example of how far people have gotten, right? So I understand that, a portion of people, but not a whole lot of people have gotten to some of those more advanced tasks in the orientation. And then I've already gone through here, and you see my little red tile here. I've already forked a bunch of this stuff to my site. I've been through here, and the things I want to talk about, I forked to my site, and I don't see anything new here. So I'm gonna go back to my site and look at the things that I've recently forked, because these are the things I want to talk about. This is a way that you can use this in your class as well, and a way that I've used it is I'll go out and I'll fork student material back to my site, and I'll throw it up on the screen when we're in the face-to-face class. And I'll say, here's some stuff I thought was really neat that I pulled out of what you were writing. So this is the stuff I've pulled out today, and this is some of the stuff I'll talk about. If you were watching the video yesterday, you saw the whole Jacquard Loom narrative, which I really recommend reading. Now, one thing I noticed here, so I just came over here and I have this Jacquard Loom thing pulled from Mike Morgan. I know that because I hover over here and I see that it's Mike Morgan's site. I can also see that I forked it from his site here. I pulled this from Mike Morgan, and he's done a change on it. I want to know what that change is. What did he add here? So I'm going to hold down Shift, right? And what I can do when I hold down Shift is if I hover over stuff, it should highlight what has been added, right? So I'm interested in, what did he add? Okay, so I hover over the last edit here, and I see that he added this last paragraph, right? And that seems to be what he did. This is a time separator. So what he did today was add this paragraph, which I think is a great paragraph when I read it, about how separating the design out as sort of the programming changes the nature of the person running the loom. And he's captured this here, I think, in a really succinct sentence. So I want that sentence. I am just going to pull this over here, and I'm just going to drop it there. So you see a little bit about, you see a little of how this works. I saw that he made an update, and I'm not really trying to keep in sync with him. And this is one of the things you've got to break yourself of thinking. We're not trying to have 8 people collaborate on a single document here. I'm going to his thing, and I'm seeing, is there anything from his additions here? Is there anything that I can grab that I think improves my art? And so I'm pulling this thing over. I could fork his if I want the whole thing, but I want to keep my piece here. So I just pull over that piece. And then if we go here, we'll see that this now says older. So people ask, well, how will stuff get updated? And the answer is it'll get updated when you use it, right? So when you go to your article on the Loom, you'll notice that there's a newer version. And if you think you might need information for that newer version, you'll look at it. And if you don't, you won't. So let's look at some of the stuff. All right, so I want to answer some questions of Mattias. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. So Mattias brings up a number of things that I think are worth addressing. The first is that I had you start out by making a bookmark to get back to your site, right? So I have a bookmark right here, and if I click this will clear my neighborhood. You notice my neighborhood is now up to 5 sites. If I click this will clear my neighborhood and send me back to welcome visitors. And he remarks, why not a button? And that's fair enough. I think we will get something to do that. I'm capable of saying that there are things that should be added and addressed in Federated Wiki. I really am. The second thing he mentions is the arrow keys and going back and forth. And this is something you should know, right? That if you get far into these things, like if we open a bunch of pages here, right? I'm holding down Shift, so these open here. If I open a bunch of pages and we want to go back, we use the arrow keys, right? We don't use the backspace. We don't use the browser back button. Now, the truth is you can use the browser back button, right? So it does comply with the browser back rules, right? So if I go to the browser back button, we see that it will subtract pages as we roll backwards, right? And it will do it in the order that I added them. The reason why we talk about the forward and back is not because the browser back won't work, but that at least what I find is that very often I don't want to close the pages I have open, right? I've got these pages open, and so we kind of treat these pages like tabs or something where we're keeping things open. But you can certainly use the back button. The back button does work, and you can also, if we open up a bunch of pages here, use backspace in the same way that we would with a browser, right? So I think maybe I created a bit of confusion there because I encourage people to use the arrows to go back and forth, but your normal ways of navigating. And likewise, if you hit Shift backspace, it'll reopen your pages just the same way as going forward. What else did there was a page on HyperCard. So let's go into conversation clubs. And let's do find, and we'll search for HyperCard. And when we click on HyperCard, we'll see that there are 3 sites that have a copy. But there's actually 2 entirely different versions, here. This first one was written by, now you see how this says this little teal-ish flag here? We can go down here, click this flag down here. It'll tell us who that is. That's David. So David, and it looks all by himself. There's no fork history there. David wrote this one here. And then this purple one was written by Keith. And so we have these 2 different versions. Now, when I see 2 different versions of something, this is where it differs a lot from Wikipedia. We're okay with there being 2 different versions floating around, and we actually think it's kind of neat. They're both really good, but they both have different information. The way we think about this in Federated Wiki is that if we get the answer we need from one, maybe we don't have to go any further. But if we want a broader version of it, maybe we look at both. And then which one do we fork? Well, we can do one of 3 things. We can fork this one. Remind me again who this is. This is David. Or we can fork the one by Keith. Or if we wanted to, we could combine these, right? And so I had already forked the one by David, but I want some of the stuff here from Keith's. One of the issues right now with Federated Wiki is if I drag something over from this page and drop it, it doesn't actually add a citation in for Keith. I'm not going to speak for the programmers, but my belief is that eventually it will. Eventually you'll drag a paragraph here, it will automatically update it. So I'm going to pull over these media things into my version, but I want to make sure Keith gets credit. So I'm just kind of making this up as I go along, but I'm going to just put it here, put a reference here, and say If you want to know exactly where everything on this page came from, you're probably going to have to go over here too, right? And take a look at this. And this also makes sure that when people come to HyperCard, that Keith gets added to the neighborhood. You know what, actually, I want to do it like this. I'm not going to make that blank, because if I make that blank, it'll completely disappear, but I'll just say and for certain things in Federated Wiki, we just kind of have to make it up as we go along, right? So let's pull these over. If you want to drag a video, drag it down here at the caption. The caption is grabbable. And what else do we want from this page? I like the fact he mentions the demo scene, right? Which is like a big thing. And the variety of things that people made, right? So I'm going to pull this paragraph over too. I might actually I'm going to just pull this. I'm going to make demo scene a link here. I know it's not teaching machines necessarily, but part of the thing is we lead where the links lead, right? So let's just create a short page. So, this is my version of the page. It doesn't have to be your version of the page. And, one of the things I really want you to think about is, you shouldn't feel any pressure to take my edits back. Take my edits back if you think that it improves the page. And I shouldn't feel any rejection if you don't take those edits back, right? I mean, we do get people, I think, that are in a slightly different mode that feel like, well, I did these edits and they weren't taken back. Well, you have a different interest, right? And you have a different point of view, and your intersection with that subject may be different than what other people's is. It's not as if people not taking your edits back means that what you did wasn't good or appreciated. They might have appreciated a lot as a reader, but it just might not be the focus they want to take on their site.